Mourning the loss of a poet and statesman in that Kenya attack, Kofi Awanor was among the victims. He was 78 years of age. These pictures were being displayed outside his home in Accra. Yesterday, I got a chance to speak to the Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama about the attack and its impact on the rest of the African continent.
I guess that softer targets, are beginning to come into play, like the shopping mall incident. And the fight against this kind of terrorism will take a global partnership, sharing intelligence, sharing experiences and training to be able to deal with it. I also believe that we should, in our societies in Africa, encourage more social inclusion so that people feel a stake, in what's going on in their governance and participation, and they don't get to a stage where they don't have a stake in the survival of the state.
But some would argue that once it started, it's very late and too difficult to put the genie back in the bottle. I mean, what gives you optimism that that is possible?
While we work on long-term solutions, we must also put in place, measures that protect, the people and the state from this kind of terror. In ECOWAS, we have passed a series of protocols that allow us to collaborate together to fight, terrorism. And you can see what happened in Mali when we got together and contributed troops to go into Mali to protect the sovereignty of Mali. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to share intelligence. We'll continue to collaborate to stop this kind of violence.
And what do you see then as the biggest challenge for West Africa, the region you're from? And when you mention ECOWAS, I mean, do you ever foresee a day where African Union soldiers will be able to go into Mali or another country to the level that the French did?
We've been talking about a rapid deployment force for a long time, but I guess that the situation in Mali has put it on the top of the agenda now. And I guess that we're prioritizing that as an issue we need to deal with continent-wide. And so there's going to be a meeting shortly to discuss putting in place a rapid deployment force to be able to do the kind of rapid intervention that the French did. But certainly all our countries are committed to contributing troops in case of emergency. But often you need a first interventionist force, to stabilize the situation before you inject troops. Mali was a successful operation, and we're going to look at the experience gathered from that and probably apply it in other theaters. Well, I believe that over the years, Africa has been looked at as a continent where, nothing good can come out of. And this perception has been reinforced by the kinds of images that are shown on the international networks, showing children starving, showing a continent racked by HIV/AIDS, showing economies that are stagnated or contracting. But I believe there's something new happening in Africa, and the international media need to showcase that. But there is a category of organizations that thrive on showing these kinds of images because they raise donations in the wealthy Western countries for anti-poverty programs in Africa.
Are you saying those programs aren't needed?
They're needed, but I don't think that the kind of images that they show, are representative of what's going on the continent. The continent is moving on. Africa is in need of opportunities. Africa is standing on its feet. There are a lot of success stories coming out of the continent. And so if you just focus on the negative and continue to reinforce that in the eyes, of the developed countries, then that perception, a negative perception about Africa continues to persist. And that's what I'm talking about.
A final question. You won a very tight election that was ratified by your country's judicial system. You also have the distinction of being the first Ghanaian to be made president. What is your vision for your country, perhaps when the last president is being inaugurated of this century?
I believe that Ghana would have made a lot of progress. My vision is that it would be a part of a larger continental political grouping. Maybe it will be part of a United States of Africa. I'm not sure. But certainly we want to push the integration agenda on the sub-regional level first, and then eventually see if we can merge, create a free trade area of the whole of Africa. But I see an Africa and a Ghana that, is standing up shoulder to shoulder with other continents in the world. It's people living in dignity and prosperity, taking advantages of technology of the 21st century and creating opportunities for its young people to be able to realize their full potential.
President John Mahama, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.